Now we're going to show the preset menu. Press the menu key twice and scroll up to the second menu. I'm going to press submenu. So here I can select the preset that I want to edit. It defaults to whichever preset you just happen to be on as you enter the menu screen. I'm going to hit submenu, and here, if I'm not using the software, I can scroll up and down, change the preset name. If you're editing numbers, P3 adds 10 and P2 subtracts 10. When you're editing letters, P3 adds 7 characters to where you are, and P2 subtracts 7 characters. So it's a fast way to kind of scroll through the symbols and alphabet, and then use your up and down to fine tune it. Okay, and again, select to save your changes. So I'm going to go to the next submenu to skip over it. Each preset can store up to 16 MIDI commands that it can fire. They could be special commands or just regular MIDI commands. Scroll down if it's going to be a special command. I'll walk through these very quick, and there'll be a separate video just on that. So we want to trigger a tuner display of your guitar tuner information. There are step commands, so a preset or an IA switch can program special commands of step, and that means when you step on it the first time, it'll fire off a certain set of MIDI commands. If you press it a second time, it'll fire off a different set, a third time, another step, and so on. You can make as many steps as you want that you can fit in memory. Same with IA switches. So it could be one step, or it could be multiple steps. Okay, so if we're not doing a special, so that's a step special command. IA second, if you want this preset that we're programming to automatically switch to a certain IA page, you would do it through here. And in the number 2 parameter, you would just tell it which page, 0, 1, 2, or 3, which is page 1, 2, 3, or 4. You'll see that in the user guide. IA link, you can have this preset automatically trigger an on or an off message of a certain switch. So the way to do that is select the IA switch number, which is 1 through 64, to trigger the on messages, and then go to 65, and you just start subtracting. So 65 would be the off message for IA switch number 1, and then scroll up to 127. So you have on messages and off messages. Well, I just skipped out of programming, didn't I? Okay, so that's where you would program your 16 MIDI messages. I kind of jumped through, so I'm just going to keep going. IA switches. For each preset, you could define the initial state of all 64 IA switches. So here, IA switch number 1 is set to the off state. If I change that, you're going to see the state show up on this IA switch. You'll see it turn green, so now I'm telling it that IA switch number 1 should start for this preset in a green state or an on state. If I press it again, it goes to a red state. If I press it again, it goes to an off state. So I can keep doing that for all 64 IA switches. It's much easier to do this in the software editor, but this is how you would do it while you're live. Preset type. I can have a normal preset, or I can have a preset act like an IA switch. The difference being that a normal IA switch will send up to 16 MIDI commands that you've programmed. It'll override the expression pedals with the preset programming, and we'll get to that next. And it will fire all of the IA switches into an initial state that's defined in the preset. If I change to act like IA switch, then the preset will do everything except for change the state of the IA switches. So it won't touch the IA switches, and it won't reset them or resend their states. This is important if you want to put like looper functions down in a preset area where you don't want it to change the IA state of a valid preset, but you want it to fire off MIDI commands and do some other things. So normally it just acts like a normal preset. Process IA commands. By default, it's don't resend. You could change that to resend and then hit select to save it. What does this mean? When you fire off a preset, you have two options. One, it'll automatically change the state of the IA switches and display the lights appropriately. but it won't re-trigger all of the programming of the IA switches. So in some effects units, like an AxeFX, where when you load a preset, it automatically sets the effects to a proper state. But there are other devices where you need to explicitly tell it whether to go on or off, or to change it, like loopers and such. So if you have loopers and things like that, you would want to resend IA switches, in which case this switch, since it's red, would send an off message. This one would do nothing because it's off, and this would send an off message. So that's how you program that at a preset level. IA switch override, you can take any of the 64 IA switches and override them with custom commands. So in this case we're saying override, this is override number 1, you have up to 7 overrides. Which IA switch do we want to override? So let's change the global settings of IA switch number 1, so I'll hit next. What do we want to override, the on messages or the off messages? So let's just say the on messages. And now you give it an override command. This is the first override command. So tell it what menu channel you want it to send a command on. So maybe we want to go to a different CC number. And maybe globally it's set for 7, and now we want to temporarily set it for 1. And then give it a command, and so on. So now you can see 1 is programmed, and now we have another command. So let's say we want to change the off command, since we just did the on command. So I'm going to leave it IA switch number 1, change it to the off message, and now I'm going to go ahead and program the same thing. So CC message, I think I changed it to CC number 1, and 127 was on, 0 is off. So that's it, and then I can keep going. So here, when I hit this preset, this IA switch S1 will now, for this preset, use the unique programming. As soon as I switch to another preset that doesn't have overrides, it goes back to a global setting. I can also override the expression pedals 1 and 2 with a unique command or CC or whatever it is I want to send out of the expression pedal adjustments, and I can do that for this preset only, and then it'll go back to global, and then I cycle back to the start. So that's how you program presets.